Yeah.
We are live. Good to see you today, my EOS Podcast friends. We have a great show for you today. We have Max from the Crypto Cast. We're going to talk about everything that's going on in EOS right now, all the exciting new developments. So, Max, welcome to the show, and go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, man. Yeah, Brandon, thanks for having me on. I've been watching your show for like however long it's been, maybe a year. You said it's nearly a year now, so Thanks for having me on, bro. But yeah, so it's my name's MaxDapp. My name's Maximilian, but I've got a YouTube channel called MaxDapp. I do the Crypto Cast, and I just do reviews. Really, I review dApps. I also talk about the EOS blockchain a lot, which a few of you guys already know, and just like cryptocurrency in general, like the further, deeper kind of philosophical points about it. And just all that kind of great stuff, bro. That's like the only way I can do it. It's probably going to branch out to a million things, but it's like cryptocurrency, dApps, all that orientated around that kind of stuff.
That's great. I mean, you've got to find a niche somewhere within cryptocurrency, and dApps is a niche, and you've got to. There's just so much going on. It's kind of mind blowing, and that's what I continue to come back to. The reason I do the EOS podcast is just because there's so much to learn. If I don't sit down with someone and just ask them a bunch of questions for an hour every couple of days, like I start falling behind. So, yeah.
Well, it's like, the dApp radar, like only probably, I don't know, 7 months ago, it was really quiet. You'd once a week you'd get new dApps, but now every day it's like a whole new list of dApps to go through. They've got all their different mechanisms for dividends. They've got all their different kind of structures. It's carnage, bro. But it's like creative carnage, you know?
Yeah. Oh, speaking of dividends, we had a meetup last night in San Francisco, and someone presented a new EOS dividends website, which basically shows all the dApps. Have you seen it?
Yeah, sure. I use it all the time. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. They showed it. It shows all the dApps and how they pay out dividends, et cetera, and like how much percentage is staked. It's a great tool. So do you know the website off the top of your head?
Yeah, it's called EOS Dividends. The guy who set it up is called Kurt Bertung, I think. Something like that. Okay. I spoke to him on Telegram. Yeah. And he's like, they're trying to be the coin market cap of dividends. And I'm like, dude, if you like, it's the next thing, isn't it? It's like the coins and then the dividends. I think everything's going to have its own dividend structure eventually, looking at this whole market. So yeah, I think that's a good site. I use it.
There's an example of a niche within a niche. I mean, that's how deep it is. So, like, there's so much. It's like even just like a dividends website is just huge. So exactly. Cool, man. Well, like you said, dApp radar is popping off now. So something always interesting going on. What do you think the most interesting thing for you going on in EOS right now is?
Yeah, so it's like probably a few things. We'll obviously start with the main thing is like dApps. Like this is like so interesting to me because I came from a background of like gaming. I used to play computer games. I used to play FIFA a lot. I used to play like Call of Duty a lot when I was younger. All those kind of games, and like decentralizing games and having like incentive models behind them, I think is just going to completely change like so much stuff, bro. Because like even the concept of making money online on YouTube is still a little bit foreign to a lot of people. But when you can actually like make your life and your living based around a game, which has like an incentive model behind it, it has a cryptocurrency you can earn. I think it's going to be like really like probably the biggest thing. I think that's what's going to really move innovation into crypto is the gaming scene, just because of that thing. Because gamers will pick it up first. They'll move in first. They'll start making money playing this crazy game like EOS Nights or whatever it is. And when these games, the UI gets better and more kind of applications are built around it, it's just going to spew on like this crazy like innovation in gaming, I think. And like, Mythical Games are doing their thing. I think High Fidelity just released their VR. They're doing a lot of VR stuff. So that whole space I'm really excited about because I like gaming. Who doesn't like to get paid to play computer games, bro? Like,
for sure.
That's like the dream to like all the 90s kids or whatever. But then it's like the next thing, just like it's a two-part thing. I won't go for too long, but it's like EOS to me is like an economic operating system. That's what it means to me. And like seeing the way EOS works. Just to go back, I came from Steemit, so that's how I got into cryptocurrency. January 2017 or something like that. I don't know. That's when I got into crypto, and like I learned about Steemit, and I was like, "What? Like this is crazy." I remember telling people about it, like you can earn money through posting. Like, how does that work? And I was like, "It works on inflation." They're like, "But isn't inflation bad?" like all these things. But the more I've learned about what Dan Larimer created, and he did the paper about it, and he did all those interviews, is like you can run like potentially the whole economy, like the UK economy or the American economy on a blockchain just like this, and then have a voting system within it, which is like everybody could control inflation. So like for me, the rabbit hole goes so far, and I just think that EOS, more than proof of work as well, because it's just so energy consumpting, and there's not like on-chain governance kind of with it. There was a few projects like that. Like I think Civic was trying to do something similar to ID, but I just think it's so exciting to see like EOS, if we can run like, because you know at the moment in the UK there's like the problems with Brexit, and it's like it's such a bad situation because there's literally half and half don't disagree. There was one referendum. You can't change it. But if you had like I'm not saying this is the be all end all, but if you had a referendum system on a blockchain within the UK, and everybody could be putting up new referendums every second, and the ones which get like how EOS works, I just don't think we would have got into that situation. And now it's like carnage out here in the UK. Like no one can agree on anything. So I think that's the two main things. I think like gaming, and then the actual implications of like how far we can like move this blockchain to like actually like governments and our monetary policy basically.
Yeah, I mean those are both huge. I mean gaming and governance and government and the way the economy works. I mean those are huge ideas, and that's what's so fun about EOS. You have these things that's happening right now, and then you have kind of this potential to grow into something bigger, you know, where we're actually making some positive change. That's, you know, the reason that I kind of went down the rabbit hole, but kind of quit I'm an entrepreneur, a lot of my side projects I quit and focused on EOS was because for the first time I felt like, holy shit, I can actually make some sort of like difference, positive impact on the world. It's not just like kind of complaining about the government and the censorship and you know, like all these kind of themes that a lot of crypto people are interested in. It's
definitely
to like take some positive footsteps forward, and that was so intriguing to me. Like, okay, this is somewhere I can actually make an impact.
Exactly. And it's like everyone's together on this as well. It's like when you look at business in general and government, it's all just like a fight, isn't it? It's like we're going to try and get elected for 4 years, and then whatever whatever it is, whatever we do, we don't care. You're going to take on the burden. So I feel like with the blockchain, we can incentivize everyone in one direction, and it's just going to be more positive for people. So yeah, I agree with you on that 100%.
Yeah, for sure. And it's okay to swear, because if I get demonetized on YouTube, it's only 3 cents or so that I lose per video. So
okay, right.
So
I didn't even like younger viewers or something. I was going to like offend, like profanity. Americans are like that. Like some Americans are swearing, bro.
Yeah, no, I'm not scared of. I'm not scared of swearing. Yeah, it's just
like Joe Rogan, the Joe Rogan podcast. We don't give a shit, man.
Exactly. Actually, people call me the Joe Rogan of EOS. My friends at home are funny. They talk trash to me. They call me the poor man's Joe Rogan at home. Because So anyway,
bro, you're much better than Joe Rogan. He's just a conspiracy theorist guy. You're doing real stuff here, man. You're
pushing the ball.
You're tackling real issues.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So let's talk about all that. Let's talk about games, since it's a little bit more of a confined topic, and then we'll go into the economy, governance, and get into a little bit bigger picture stuff.
Sure.
With the games, the reason I bring that up is because I just met we had a San Francisco EOS DApp event last night, and we demoed a bunch of DApps. And I met a guy there who has kind of a stealth project, but it's done. It's working. It's in beta. Twitch in San Francisco. Are you familiar with Twitch? Yeah.
Sure.
He's working with Twitch. He's built a layer for Twitch that's built on EOS, where the viewers can offer incentives to the person playing, and give them rewards for certain certain in-game moves. So they'll want him to do something crazy, like get a headshot from complete opposite side of the map. And if you get a headshot like from the tower all the way to the other tower or something. I'll give you 5 EOS. And then they put that reward.
I can't remember the name. What's the name of the company? I know the name.
I can't remember.
They came from Ethereum, didn't they?
I don't even know that. He was, I can't believe I didn't get his information because I was like, oh my God, I got to have you on the podcast.
So no, I know that. Yeah. Carry on. Yeah, I know this. Yeah.
So yeah, but I mean, basically that's the opportunity for, the opportunity for someone watching the game to interact, and not only interact, but like affect the direction of the game. Cause you could find some really good player and tell them they have to win this certain way or else you're not going to pay them, type of thing.
Exactly. It's like multiplayer to the next level.
Yeah. So he said that Twitch loves it because it increased their engagement by 200%. So like everything was just doubled, like the comments, the viewers, the interactions, whatever, the payments, like everything was basically twofold. So anyway, that's a rad one. And
I know that because I know a lot of friends who play Fortnite. Right. And then they get people who send them a message saying, if you jump off that cliff, I'll give you £5. But there's no recourse. Like there's no like smart contract, which says that if I actually do that, you give me the money. There's like a million cases where you do something someone tells you to do. And then they're like, nah, I'm not sending you the money, bro. And you just lose the game or whatever. So that's going to change everything. Because if you put it in a smart contract and it's a binding contract, basically, and then it's going to change everything. Because it's like if you get given a request and do it, you get paid. So
I mean, can you imagine the dynamics? Because that's just like this big open world fight, basically. The big, they drop 50 people onto a map and then everyone fights. If there's 50 people, but all 50 of those people possibly have like their incentives tweaked in some
their
weird
own game going on.
Crazy, so now it's this giant game that's already really interesting and interactive, but now there's 50 different incentives of people trying to get paid for weird stuff. Like I just can't even imagine what it's going to be. It's really cool. And that's already here.
So cool. Yeah. It's so cool. Like honestly, for me, that's kind of like the main reason I talk about dApps is because I know how big this is going to get. And I want to be a part of that. I want to be talking about these amazing games. Like that's 100% the reason. It's going to be, I don't think we even know how crazy it's going to get, bro. It's going to be so mental. Like and with VR, like, recently High Fidelity did a video. You might have seen the SVK crypto video.
Yes.
And they were saying how like they're going to build VR systems where you can like go to school in VR and you can just like put this headset on, go to school. Oh, my flatmate just got back, but yeah. And then you can just like do your classes wherever in the world. You can have in-game not in-game, but in-school items on the blockchain, which then can be in different locations where like you could say to the class, okay, we're in Egypt, go and find the Egyptian artifact. You go around and actually find the item. Like that is like mind-blowing, man, isn't it? It's just
absolutely.
It's just I can't believe that is going to happen in our lifetime, if not even more crazy stuff. So yeah, gaming is, dude, I love it.
Well, Phil Rosendale, he's the guy who built Second Life, and so he has deep experience in this alternate world type of thing. And I've been trying to get him on the podcast. So Phil, I know you're listening, and when you hear this, come on the show, man. I think that they're a trio. So I've played High Fidelity with the VR, with Oculus Rift VR, and it's pretty cool. The full interactive world. It's very close to. I mean, it surprisingly feels like you're actually hanging out with real people. Like when you walk into a circle and people are chatting. Besides the fact they look like lizards and like Godzilla and elves and things, like it's actually like hanging out.
Exactly.
So cool. And I
like
went
playing poker. Yeah, go on.
Oh yeah. Well, I went on the VR tour of Nefertari's tomb, and I
saw that. I think Rob from Cypherglass.
Rob did it. So I went on that tour too, and there was a real Egyptologist there who and she went through and like pointed out all the stuff. You could walk around and look at it, ask questions. Oh, so cool. It's like this is kind of on the riffing on the school thing. Yeah. Being able to hang out with an Egyptologist and go in like this tomb, a real version of this tomb that's actually in Egypt is like, that's how you learn, man. That's wild. Really cool.
Yeah. I think it's like it's like that all of these industries are like linking together, and the kind of the core of it is going to be the crypto. Do you know what I mean? Like the actual asset behind it. Because it's all great having a game where you like run around and you kill things and it's like a zombie game, you don't get anything for it. But like, dude, it's just crazy to think that you could have one game which is completely different to another game. The EOS blockchain is linking them together with the assets, and you can trade between them or whatever it is. Or, you know, you could play a game which your school assigns you. You'll go out and find the item. You get a cryptocurrency backed by D-goods, something like that on the standard. And then you can go and trade it with your friends at school. Man, I love it, dude. This is like, it's going to be so cool.
Yeah. And what you were saying about like how we don't even know what's going to happen, that's a lot like the internet. When the internet came out, and the internet, they're like, oh, it's for email. And people are like, what's email? And then they try to explain email. But like people couldn't quite yet wrap their head around what the internet even meant. It's like, okay, well, it means we can send messages. Oh, we can probably send money someday over the internet. Like, or maybe we're going to be able to buy stuff from stores over the internet. But like what has happened with the internet, no one could have really
predicted. I think people, and like I have a conversation with like family members and stuff about this. They're like, oh, but cryptocurrency is just a fad. It's going to go away. But like the difference between the internet was like, before the internet, there was like no social media, like no quick information transfer. Now we have the quick information transfer of the internet. So to think that the blockchain is going to take the same amount of time as the internet took to get adopted is almost laughable. It's probably going to be half the time or even less than half the time, because people can send a message on Twitter and then everybody can know about it around the world. Like the social media has only really been like big for 10 years, and no one will put their credit cards in any website like 15 years ago. If you put your money in a website 15 years ago, it's as good as gone. I always say this, is like, what? You would never do that. Like, and that's 15 years. Like Amazon is like the biggest deal. So blockchain and all this kind of stuff, it's like we've already got the internet, the transfer of information. You're looking at 5 years, 10 years max before this is all like completely laid down. Everybody knows about it. And when it's as easy to get on board than the internet is today, like you're probably seen as like, well, there's a lot of people who don't have the internet still. Mm-hmm. Like, I get that. We are still privileged in that. But like the exponential curve of users is like almost there now. Like we're only at the very beginning. We're like just teetering at the beginning of like actually having users. Like Karma is a really good example. Like if Karma came out 10 years ago, it'd be like everybody would use it. But it's because it's a completely different concept. Like the curve of adoption is just going to take longer. But that's another whole topic. We could talk about it for another like 2 hours.
Yeah. I mean that's definitely true. And the speed of adoption is an interesting concept, because basically what the blockchain ends up being is just this layer that's on top of the just a layer on top of the oh shoot, give me 1 second please.
Yeah, no worries,
sorry about that.
That's all right. Hey bro, what happened?
Oh wow, sorry about that, dude.
What happened?
Hold on.
An earthquake.
Holy shit. I have farm animals, and so I got ducks. I got, Muscovy ducks and stuff running around out there, and a dog came in the yard, and he was chasing them around in circles, and I was like, just thinking, hey, these things should just fly away. What are they doing? And then
do you have a camera or something which you can see it?
No, I can look out my front. I'll show you.
Oh, okay.
Hold on.
Oh yeah.
So that's the office. And anyway, a dog got in the yard and was chasing these ducks around. I was like, they better just fly away. And then they didn't. Then it sectioned one off and chased them out into the highway, like an acre down. And then the cars are going by. The ducks like cars. Is like, I should probably take a break real quick. And
that's hilarious.
Yeah. So
I can't believe that just happened right now. Like you had a fight with a goose. Or did you say it was a duck? Or
yeah.
Oh my god, bro.
Muscovy duck. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the joy. That's the joy of
you could probably just edit that out.
Yeah. Maybe I'll just leave it. Who knows?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, Sorry for the little pause there, man.
That's all right, bro. No worries. Where were we anyway? I can't remember. We were talking about so much stuff.
Yeah. Well, I had this thought I was about to go on to was the how rapidly things are going to scale, and that EOS is really just this kind of layer or this tool or a development tool or a development option for developers to use. So it will almost, now that it's starting to be used, once it's starting to actually be used, it'll just be adopted at the speed of kind of the next set of internet tools. Like, so as fast as old internet applications disappear and new ones come in, like all the new ones that are refreshing the space will have this new, some sort of blockchain built into them. So it could happen within one app cycle, basically, once there's big adoption. So
and it's like the onboarding process, isn't it? It's like I think the guys at Scatter just do the best job at like getting people into this space, like the whole Scatter bridge they've got now, and then the Create bridge for creating accounts. That's like the next step really to get adoption. But the reason I love EOS so much is because you don't really need to know that you're using a blockchain to have an interaction with it. Like look at something like Eva, right? The only thing you need to know is that it's a cheaper ride, and you know it's a cheaper ride, and it's a lot easier to get new cars because there's going to be eventually more people who are going to be on the network because they're going to get rewarded in tokens. There's no middleman, so all they're going to know is it's cheaper, and they're going to want to use that, right? So that's what I love about EOS, because you couldn't really do that with Ethereum because you've got to pay a gas fee to do a transaction. That's the core fundamental structure. Is like if you don't pay a fee, the transaction isn't going to get put through. But with EOS, you can do as many transactions as long as you've got resources. I think EOS is just a more malleable tool. That's what I like about it. It's like if you look at like IBM or something with all their big computer service, they built all this hardware. Like the software people won, didn't they? Like the Googles and the Amazons, it's all software. So I think that's similar to like this, not very similar, but like kind of EOS is like the more malleable and like seen as a more risky version of Ethereum. But when you get down to like the nitty gritty, like decentralization is only good like if you're literally running like probably like a military grade, really secure system. Like you don't really need like not for like gambling dApps or whatever. You can just have there's different levels of security you need, isn't it? It's not just like all needs to be on a really slow like steam train of a blockchain, like one block or 10 block or one block every 10 minutes. Like that's good for Bitcoin, in my opinion, but not good for stuff which needs to have stuff built on top of it. So I agree with you 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's comparing it to something like Amazon or, a fully centralized server. I mean, EOS is leaps and bounds, like it's decentralized, a huge community project. And so, it's funny when it's attacked for being some sort of centralized scheme, when it's like, this is clearly much different than everything we've ever had as far as centralization goes. And I think the point that you make about the being able to hide the transaction layer is really important. I mean, this is kind of the year of user experience, the year of hiding the blockchain so that people can just play and everything works. They don't need to know how it works. And
exactly, yeah.
EOS doing that's beautiful. I think Steem was such a good example of how to use a blockchain and just kind of hide it. You just click upvote and money pops up in people's accounts. Who, as you dig in deeper, you may want to know why and how that works, but you don't have to. And I think that's really
yeah. The only thing you needed to know was that your password was your private key, basically. That's all you needed to know. And obviously that comes with its negatives, like if you lose your password as your private key. So I think the next iteration of Steemit, which is going to be MEOS or whatever it's going to be called, we don't 100% know it's going to be MEOS. Like they could come up with a different name, but I think Dan Larimer, if it's not incredible, a lot of people are going to be disappointed because Steemit was cool. Steemit was really cool. Like I was just like, I invested loads into Steemit at the beginning, but then I realized that actually Steemit isn't going to make it. It's like the pets.com, it's the first one that's made the mistakes, but MEOS, if they integrate all of those different ideas into one thing, they're going to have like a really powerful social media. And then this is going to bring me on to another point I wanted to make as well about like, just sort of how moving on into the future, like if there's going to be more and more jobs I know this is like changing the subject real quick, but if there's more jobs going to be replaced by, sort of robotics and the kind of stuff like that, like eventually there's going to have to be some sort of UBI, or there's going to have to universal basic income. And I was thinking, like, with having these social media dApps, which like you can control your data, like in one set on a decentralized platform, and then you can monetize it, like things like data and your biometrics, like what you're made of, if you can monetize that on a blockchain, that's going to be the universal basic income. So if you want to like extrapolate further into the future, like speculation, I don't think anybody's going to have to do any type of work in like maybe 50 years, maybe 100 years. I don't know. Maybe 50 years is probably too little. But if we have all these technologies, because if you look at history, we've just worked less and less and less and less and less over time. Just over, like, say 2,000 years. Like in general, we work less. Like we used to go out in the field, dig up some dirt, make harvest the crops, eat the crops, cook the crops. But as time's gone on, we've worked less and less and less. So if history repeats itself, we're just going to work less and less and less into the future. And it's going to be tough like robotics. And there's going to be different ideas of where you're going to get your income from. So that's another whole thing. But
we've kind of worked less. I mean, we've worked less hard possibly in some cases. Yeah. But I mean, they're like, as far as like the time and the mental load for people, in some cases, I feel like that's almost increased, like, unfortunately, because
like stress.
People aren't understanding that, hey, like, the reason that we have these technological advances is to relieve like your mental load so that you can have less stress, feel more fulfilled, maybe do more creative projects, maybe like put stuff into your passion. Whereas people are like, people, instead of taking it like technology, sweet, now I can work like 14 hours a day and grind in front of my computer and turn myself into a maniac, so. So yeah,
it's quite a broad thing. Yeah, I can't remember the exact statistics I was looking at, but like it was just like generally like the amount of hours I think people put into like work. It's still high. Like people work 60 hours a week, but like if you count work as like something energy you're putting towards like survival, like I think it's slightly less today than before. But like I agree. There's different ways you can look at it, but yeah, like that, and that's why blockchain is going to be so much more profound, because it creates a system where just participating in it, you can get rewarded for that. And that's what I think the masses don't get yet. Because like, we're not going to use, I was actually, I actually did a video just today. Elon Musk did like a podcast. I don't know if you saw it. And at the end of it, like, you might have seen it, I don't know. But at the end of it, he was just saying like, yeah, we're not going to use paper money in like the future. There's no way. Like, it's so ridiculous. Paper. A piece of paper with something written on it, and it's not backed by gold anymore. So that's a whole other story with Nixon. But like, to think that cryptocurrency is just going to be the next step. Like, there's like two ways you can look at it. You can talk to people in the EOS community who all believe in it, but there's like, we are such a tiny minority still compared to the masses. Like, there's like pretty much all my friends, not all of them. Like, okay, a lot of my friends are into it, but like their friends, they don't know what this is all about. No way. So it's like kind of like realization of like, it's almost like education, isn't it? We've got to just go out and educate and talk to people. And then it's like the internet. Now everybody uses it, but no one used to use it.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And on the topic of UBI, actually, Dan called it URI, the Universal Resource Inheritance. You were probably familiar with that Telegram channel. For me, kind of the big takeaway and the difference that I always want to like continue to like point out to listeners and things like that is URI is different from UBI in the fact that resource inheritance is looking at all of the resources that are readily available and then just kind of that are already sitting there and then kind of splitting those up and letting people share them. Whereas universal basic income is according to need. So they look at, well, people need, as a basic income, $1,000 a month to survive. Okay, let's find where to grab that from. So, so one is according to what's available, and let's utilize it, and one is according to what's needed. And so for me, that's nuanced, but it's a big difference because one seems right to me, and the other seems like I don't. The other is like that a model that I'm not big on. Yeah. So, and what's available, and like kind of what you're talking about there is, as blockchain lets us monetize our data.
Yeah, because we are an asset, right? We are we have
Yeah.
blood. We're like this thing which can be monetized eventually.
Exactly. So as we monetize that, that's where the resource inheritance comes from. That's where there's this natural value. That's where this natural value that you're adding to the world, you can be rewarded for. And, and then hopefully in a bigger picture, people then utilize their time for fulfillment and making the world a better place. That's my Happy Money Man. Happy Money Man was what I was on Steemit, and that Happy Money Man media was centered around the reason that was my moniker is centered around like fulfillment in life and putting like happiness, fulfillment, like making the world a better place before money, because too many people put money first and then
exactly.
Wasted, so.
And money's too. It's on unfortunately, like, the closer people get to money, the more corrupt they become. Like, that's kind of how it goes. Like, if you look at the banking industry, like, it's just like if the inflation rate of an economy is just basically making everybody else poorer. But if the inflation was like distributed out, it's just the government and central banks just have this clause on it. And then the American government is, I wouldn't say like the worst at it. Like, the Bank of England's just as bad, but the Federal Reserve have a lot more power than any other central bank, because they are like they're like the gold standard of the fiat currencies. Mm-hmm. So they, what America do affects everybody else. What the Bank of England does affects everybody else. And that's like a central point of failure, which has to change. It's just not going to work. Like, especially with all these debt problems. And that's why I love this whole space, because, if we can get rid of central banking as soon as possible, like, I'm not saying like it's done badly. It's done well to get us where we are today. Like, we still live a great life. We have nice homes. You just, you have geese in the garden, whatever. But it's just like there's a better alternative now. And like the whole inflation rate, the EOS economic operating system is just like, for putting an economy, there's a project called Onesius, which got hold of me, and they've been explained to me like they're trying to build like they call it the economic machine. No, the economic engine. Okay. And I've got a video. I think I did a video about it, so you can check it out. But it's not perfect. I'm not saying it's perfect, but like with these decentralized blockchain DPoS, you can actually just like kind of program whatever economy you want. You can kind of make up your own rules. So eventually, we're almost like natural selection. We're going to come up with the best economy if it's programmable and like, decentralized in that respect. But that's like super deep, but like that's what I see happening, because like I just don't like the way the world works at the minute in that kind of respect.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. That central point of failure is huge. It makes the whole system kind of very fragile. They're all depending on each other to continue this where we've gotten to at this point. And that makes it so, if one fails, then the others kind of follow. And
like a domino effect, like the recession. Like
and that's exactly what happened in the States with the banking industry. It was all, it's all tied together in this big network of everything depending on each other. And then, when one fails, the whole banking industry failed. Exactly. Real estate, everything's crushed. So, this idea of a lot of microeconomies, all anti-fragile, as Nassim Taleb would put it, but not dependent on one another. And as they fail, the rest of the system gets stronger. Speaking to what you're saying, we're going to experiment and pieces fall off. But when pieces fall off, that didn't work. It gets a little bit better. Like all of a sudden we have this not only resilient, but anti-fragile economy that's kind of the future for sure.
And everybody can decide. Like, inflation is basic, but in the economies we have today, like Venezuela, I spoke to EOS Venezuela, and they're just going through hyperinflation. And like there's been 600 fiat currencies. Like I think 90% of them ended up hyperinflating their currency, and that was just due to government manipulation in economies. So like if we leave it down to human beings, like throughout history we've done the same mistakes. Like the Roman Empire, they started coin clipping. Have you ever heard of the phrase coin clipping, right?
Yeah.
They started doing it, and then they got greedy. The people in power, they want to expand their empire. Unfortunately, that's exactly what America's done. You've expanded your empire out and you've overextended. And you only did that because you printed more like everybody thinks it's real, but it really isn't real value, really. Like it's just printing to give, and then someone else believes it's valuable. If it was backed by gold, then fine. But gold like limits gold limits you because you can't print it. So it's like you can't like overexpand. And human beings love to like overreach and do more than you can do. Build the tallest building, do all this. So like, unfortunately, like if we can have a blockchain system which is like hard money, like Bitcoin or like EOS, where it's like hard facts and no central person has control over the inflation, and we can all decide where it goes. Yeah, the problem is like everybody's doing it. So like everyone's in this chicken and egg situation where it's like, oh, they're doing it, so we'll do it, and we've got to keep up with them. America's got to be better than China, and if we don't do it, China are going to do it. So it's like everybody's building up this whole. It's like it's a massive issue, like, and I think blockchain will definitely help, but it's going to take time. You know, it's not just going to happen like boom, suddenly we've got EOS and everyone's living the dream, but it's going to take some time.
Yeah, and as far as like the monetary aspect goes, like money being used, how it's used as money, it seems that governments are definitely going to have their own competing cryptocurrencies, and they may even force their citizens to use their specific currency. Exactly. And that'll be interesting to see how that plays out as well. Places like China have a lot of control over how people use their money, or they could just say you have to use this money and you can't use this other money. That's easily foreseeable in China. In the States, it's less easily foreseeable. It's almost like they would need to somehow compete for relevance. But so it'll be interesting to see what if the U.S. dollar becomes a cryptocurrency at some point, and if it's global.
Well, it's like JP Morgan coin, isn't it?
JP Morgan coin.
It's interesting you bring up China as well, because I literally watched a documentary like a couple of days ago about it, and it's about this like English guy who lives in China, and he crossed the road, and it was a jaywalk, and he was picked up by a face recognition camera, and it took the money from his account without any authorization.
Wow.
Boom. How mental is that? So like, I literally was like, oh, that's so bad. Like, it's scary to think how much power the government have, and that's like that's the bad side of technology, is that they can get you in this enclosed system. And WeChat. So it's like WhatsApp. They have WeChat, and it's your whole banking thing. So there's some cities which they don't use cash. There's no credit cards or cash. You use QR codes, and there's a whole. And then you can't even use your credit card. So you're like, you have to use the QR code, which is the government system, and then you're in this horrible loop. So definitely we need it has to be decentralized. It has to be decentralized. You can't let government do it, otherwise you're living in a prison.
Yeah, I actually just got WeChat because I have some I have a VR supply thing. But anyway, I've got suppliers in China, and I needed to get on WeChat. And so I was researching it, and it's amazing how used it is. I think so. WeChat has 1 billion users.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And what people can do, they can buy movie tickets, like you're saying. They can do all their commerce. They can buy everything just through imagine Telegram. You can just buy everything. They can send money. They can do travel. I mean, the whole economy basically works through this one app.
WeChat.
Hundreds of things through WeChat. Yeah. It's just like amazing.
That could be me EOS, but that's why I'm so excited. You could have like a social media application which uses your biometrics for your private key, so no one else can access it, and it's like your digital version of yourself, and you can take it wherever you want. Your private key is locked to your biometrics, and then you can pay for things with it, but it's like you own it. Like that's the key part. You have to own that data, and then you can monetize it. It's going to be incredible if Dan Larimer can kind of actually realize this whole vision, because he's like the brainchild of it all. He's stemmed all of this into all of us. Do you know what I mean? We're like his kids, we're like his little children, and then we're extrapolating, thinking about new ideas, and then it's like this amazing thing where it's like this EOS community. Because I have to just say, the EOS community is amazing, 100%. Ethereum community is just like non-existent. Like no one's like working together. Like the miners aren't working together. They're fighting each other. It's a massive war. EOS is like a completely different thing. But yeah, like we're coming up with new ideas in the EOS community. It all gets fed back to the top again. Not like a Illuminati triangle, but like say Dan Larimer's the top. But yeah, it's unstoppable, this thing. And as more and more people get sucked in, then you'll even see people in government who are trying to enforce bad shit. are like, actually, I don't want to do that. I'd rather just get on the EOS community. That's like the turning point where governments aren't even, the people who in government aren't even incentivized to work for government, because it's like, why? And then the government is distributed. It's hard to like, obviously me and you understand it, but like if I try and explain it to somebody else, like my dad, he'd be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
This is what we're seeing.
Yeah, it takes so many small steps, and like as you take small steps, the whole picture in front of you changes. So it's really hard to like say what it looks like far down the road. The only thing you could say is it's going to be much different.
I'm interested in like that kind of stuff, like looking to our past as well. Like if you like, even my dad is like, everything's changed in my life. Like everything's changed. Like if you went back to when I was a kid, I was like what was it like? What my dad was telling me some crazy stuff, but like it's just not much stuff going on. That's only 50 years. So like to think, and it's exponentially growing. I'm going to do a video on exponential growth, because I don't think any of us really quite understand how crazy exponential growth is. It just starts. It's just so mental to understand. Like I think there's a thing. It's really easy. It's like if you have a one droplet of water which doubles every second, how many seconds would it take to fill a Super Bowl arena? And it's like 12 minutes.
Oh wow!
It's like what? It just, you would think it would take a long time. Because one drop, two, then four. You're like, that's gonna take ages. But it's like 12 minutes. It's like, I think it's even less than that. I think it's like, I don't know, like 10 minutes. And that's like, that's what we're on right now. We're doing that in technology. We're doing that in every industry. So to think that, I think we'll probably see as much change as my dad saw in half the time. That's what I'm thinking, just in general.
Yeah, I mean, just in the last year of cryptocurrency, just since since I've been doing this podcast about a year, so much has changed. I mean, we went through an ICO craze, we went through EOS launching, and then like all the tools having to be built, and now actual apps starting to come out, and now it's being focused on user interface. I mean, it hasn't been that long. It hasn't even been a year that EOS has been live. So it's like it's like when human beings, like once we know something, we like just put everything in and do it really quickly. It's like building the railways. Like in America, they did it in so quickly because they just knew the end goal. They knew what to do. They just did it. They just built it. And then, but it took thousands of years to get to railways. But once they knew how to do it, they were like, bang, let's go. We'll build the railways. But it took thousands of years to get to that kind of technology. It's like China built more maglev trains and more high-speed rail than every other country combined in 10 years. Because they just knew how to do it. They got the labor. They're like, bang. And like, if you look at a graph, it's like China is just every single high-speed rail is in China. And then they're like doing Hyperloop and all this other crazy stuff. So it's just like I'm so excited for this time, and EOS is like, I think, because all this technology is good, but it hasn't helped inequality. Inequality's just got worse and worse. Like as the years have gone on, like technology, there's a graph I looked at recently, and it's just like, the gap's just ridiculous now. It's like the top 1% have so much power. So that's why I love EOS, because it can like hopefully decentralize that. That's the key, isn't it? But we're getting philosophical here, bro. I'm loving it. We're doing the Joe Rogan here. Joe Rogan of EOS.
We need the whole thing.
I know. I'm drinking my coffee. People sometimes ask if I'm drinking beer. I'm like, well, I could be. Who knows, man?
Exactly, bro.
Good dark Guinness or something.
Caffeine.
Yeah. It's good though. EOS is philosophical. I mean, there's this kind of big dream behind EOS that's like pushing a lot of this, or this underlying vision of something different where people are able to monetize the value that they're adding to the world. Because right now, there's just a lot of things that we do that we add a lot to the world, but we don't get compensated for. So once that's kind of out there, it gives people the capacity to do more things more things they love. I mean, imagine if things like volunteer work that people actually like doing, imagine if they could somehow be compensated for that.
Exactly. Yeah. That's kind of karma, isn't it? That's like kind of what karma is trying to achieve.
Exactly. So there's all these little experiments where we're monetizing things that weren't monetized before. And it's a great,
it's like, but I just feel like, you know, like things like Amazon, Google, and the big corporates now, there's a really good book which you read. It's by a guy called, is it Bill Buckley? George Gliedner.
Mm-hmm.
And he wrote a book in like the 60s called Life After Television.
Okay.
And it's awesome, dude. Life After Television is a great book. And he literally predicted like so many things which are going to happen in innovation. And then there's another one he's written recently called Life After Google. And again, it's really, really controversial stuff, really crazy stuff. And he comes out and he's talking about how like we all thought it was going to be the cloud and like Google services and AI. And it's like this concept of like people in the time they're in history, they always believe that the technology they created is like the last thing. Mm-hmm. It's like America, like the steam railways. This the pinnacle of this is the pinnacle of technology. Nothing's ever going to defeat this. And it goes even further to be like the massive English ships. That's my cat. The massive English ships from Nelson's time in Trafalgar, the Battle of Trafalgar. Everybody was like, look, nobody is ever going to destroy this English fleet. And it was 150 years. Everybody was like, there's no chance that anything can destroy this fleet. Like, this is the end. This is the eschaton. He calls it the imminent horizon of the eschaton. You should read this book, dude. It's awesome.
I love books.
Yeah. And anybody who's listening, I 100% recommend it because it's like kind of the masses at the moment are like that. They're like, Google's the biggest thing. No one's going to ever take Google down. No one's going to take Facebook down. Mm-hmm. But now, like the innovators, the smaller thinkers are seeing a different picture. But the masses don't think that. If you ask anyone, like say, I don't know, like someone who would like someone who just works a normal, like really like modest job, you know, works every day, like a lorry driver or something. There are lorry drivers that are into this, but they would usually think, oh, Google's the biggest thing. There's no chance.
I've talked to some, like on that point, I've talked to some people.
I think the internet has changed that a little bit though, just to go back on myself. I think the internet has changed that a bit because it's such a free information, but yeah, go on.
Yeah, well, the argument from people that I've gotten on that point is that, okay, well, yeah, but the difference now is that teams like Google and Amazon are taking all this smart talent and they're like trying to innovate faster than everyone else. So the question because in the past, what happens is like, you know, that gets kind of stodgy, like IBM style stodgy, where they're not really innovating. They just are resting on their behemoth. Amazon and Google seem to have learned from history and are trying to out innovate everyone else as well, which gives them a little bit more longevity and which is a little bit more threatening to the, you know, to
the eschaton. That's what they say. If you read the book, bro, it's awesome.
But this may be just the common thinking error that's happened for thousands of years. That So
history is against that. Like there was a company called the East India Dutch Trading Company, and if you put it in relative terms, it was worth like $10 trillion. And the people who lived in that time were like, no way, man. Like, no way. There's no way this is going away. This company is the biggest thing. And they had a centralized system of all the trade routes. So they owned all of the trade routes. They made billions and billions and billions and billions and billions. But today, that's not around.
Yeah, that's actually probably a really good analog for something like Amazon owning all the trade routes and, you know, kind of having the monopoly on the entire big picture of the economy.
Exactly.
So would you say that life after television is a prerequisite for life after Google, or could someone just jump? Yeah, so
it's the same guy.
Can you just jump straight to life after Google and get more out of it, enough out of it?
Yeah, sure. The only reason I started with Life After Television is because it was a book which I was familiar with before Life After Google. Life After Google is really recent, really recent book. But the reason George Gliedner got so famous was because he literally predicted so much stuff.
Okay.
It was Life After Television. He kind of said that actually, no, it's the idea of, you know, TV being like this information hub. Actually, it's going to be more about like portable devices and all this other weird. And then he kind of predicted that there's going to be a free flowing information. This is way before the internet. And he's kind of like a insightful thinker. He didn't like know the internet was going to be how it is, but he knew that there was going to be a different transmission between TV. So it just used to be TV. So sit down, watch TV, and that's where you got your info. But he was saying there's going to be a more distributed version of that, like the internet. And then Life After Google is all about how the centralized hubs of power at the moment, it kind of goes against human creativity. It actually stifles capitalism at its core. And then because governments are getting involved, so when a government subsidizes a company, it completely unlevels the playing field of capitalism, and then it breaks people's innovative nature. Because a lot of people are just really down on themselves in the economy today. Like a lot of people are just like, you know what, I can't be asked. Like people don't enjoy their jobs. Like 65% of people hate their job.
Yeah.
Like we've all been there. I used to work in a fishmonger's, bro. It was horrible. Like it was the worst thing in the world. But what he's saying is that like when the level of people in despair gets too great, something comes along and changes it. Because we are human beings, like people, we want to change, and that's probably what blockchain is like that, almost like, what's the word for it? Like that kind of libertarian, like against the government movement. Like most of the people in Bitcoin started like that. Yeah. But then it's progressing into decentralization. But also, Peter Thiel does loads of talks on it as well. It's quite interesting. But check it out.
The Jack Dorsey, who did Twitter, talks about this. Twitter was just basically a way for people to share human consciousness, like at the speed of light. So like I'm thinking something, and now sudden, like thousands of other people are thinking the same thing. So this, the speed of information now, and we start to couple that with, with blockchain, and it does seem like it's going to be hard for that. Really can't be stifled, at this point. Like the speed of just normal people like you and I thoughts getting out into the public, just like that. Like how can you can't constrain that. And so I think that's the, why Google and Amazon won't be able to just out innovate just the rest of the world thinking creative. So well, there's a friend of mine, I can't remember his name. He made a really good point. He was like, actually, no, it wasn't him. It was his friend. I can't remember. But anyway, it was like, the point is, it's like, how can
it's 7 o'clock.
That's my laptop again, telling us the time. We've been here for an hour. He's my best friend, this guy. But yeah, it kind of says like, what was it? Can't remember now. I literally went blank. What was
You're talking about a friend who had recently come up with an idea. I was talking about the speed that information is traveling as far as like Twitter goes and things like that.
Oh yeah. Sorry. So how can a centralized company which has 3,000 or 4,000 shareholders eventually compete with something like EOS, which has hundreds of thousands of decentralized shareholders, not really shareholders, but all have incentives to build and make EOS better because they're part of EOS. They're a token holder. Or even if they're not even a token holder, but they know it brings better quality of applications to them, whatever that is, like say a decentralized Uber or a decentralized version of Amazon. Because if you think about it, you can just decentralize Amazon. But the idea of it is like, how can a centralized company eventually ever compete with a decentralized company? Because there's just so many more minds like involved in that thought process. I think Google, Amazon, they're all gone. 100% in my opinion. Anyway, I think they haven't got long left, really. It's like Uber, it's like 50% fees now for the drivers. Like, if you're going to start charging 50%, someone's going to innovate. Like, people aren't just going to stand for that. You're basically showing the world a massive place for improvement. And with now blockchain, there's no chance. It's going to be completely decentralized very soon.
Uber's in a bad spot. They started their model basically onboarding people at a cost to them. They made it cheap to onboard people, and now they're having to turn it into like a profitable company. They're having to increase price, but everyone's used to the cheap Uber rides, and so it's like, well, now you're turning it into like more of a taxi feeling service, like where and people are rebelling against that, and that's why Lyft is but Lyft I don't know what Lyft's fee structures like compared to Uber, but I know Uber is having a real tough time with their price change, and that was part of their model, but they didn't see heavy competition coming in, which
so
Lyft
they still make billions, don't they?
They're crushing it, but there's room for something like Eva to come in and take the middleman out. Now that Lyft and Uber have kind of paved the way, If EVA can
sure.
figure out the regulatory environment quickly enough, there's space for them. So
yeah,
it's rad.
it's crazy, man. Like I don't really like the whole, regulatory boards always like having their say on what you can do and what you can't do as businesses. Like, you heard of a guy called Tim Draper?
Mm-hmm,
you heard of him, right? Yeah. And he was like, saying how governments have to compete for citizens. And like, that's a very solid statement, but like, just to, speculate on that and move forward. Like, if you're going to have decentralized systems on blockchains, whatever blockchain it is, like Tron, Ethereum, EOS, whatever it is, and there's no central point to shut it down, like, how can that not happen? It probably will happen. Like, he's probably right. Like, I don't see how governments can enforce as much with blockchains, like when they're distributed with a distributed ledger, because governments have that, what the WikiLeaks thing. They went in, they found the guy, and they took his laptop. Was it WikiLeaks? And I think it was something else. Yeah, I think it was Silk Road. Silk Road, I think, had some problems with that. I'm not saying like that's a good thing. That's probably a good. It was probably good it got taken down, but it's got its pros and its cons. Like another quote from Bill Buckley, who's in the book of George Gleidner, is like, every single next wave of innovation always is going to fix the past, but it comes with its own problems. So we're probably going to come up with just as bad issues, because when Facebook was growing up, we were like, this is amazing, like, this is great, but it turned into a beast, which we now think of bad. Like, it's not a good thing. So blockchain's probably a little bit different, but we'll probably have some struggles as well. Yeah. Maybe with censoring bad content, stuff like that, because you got used to get that on Steemit. But it's going to be so interesting, bro, to see all this unwind. Like, I love talking to you about it. Yeah. It's going to be crazy.
The government's competing is a interesting concept, because as we get more of a globalized community, and as like digital vagabonding is a good example. Like right now, a lot of people go to Singapore or go to, Costa Rica or to Colombia, or, there's these places where people go with their computers, they make money, and they're going there because there's not only less about regulation, but like, cheaper costs. You can live on the beach in Singapore for, $400 a month and surf and live the dream. So as people become less tied to some sort of certain structure, they can pick where they want to be located throughout the globe. As long as it feels safe and it's got what they want, they can take their families. Luke Stokes moved from, he was in the north. I'm not sure if he's in northern states or in Canada, but he moved with his whole family down to Puerto Rico. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you're seeing
Brock Pierce is there as well, right?
Brock Pierce is there. Yeah. But you're seeing like people move. So my point, I guess, is that I have a chunk of my money in EOS, and that frees me to just separate myself from the States if I wanted. I could leave and I could travel anywhere, not have to deal with any of the financial system in the States, and go anywhere in the world. And so as people separate themselves from these things that tie them to their countries, then it's absolutely this competition. Like, where do I want to go, and where are they going to treat me the best? And then,
exactly.
So
I love it, man. That is like the utopian future, I don't know where it's going to leave us, but like, it's going to be, well, it's like all these things. Like, I like looking at history. Like, I haven't really been into that until I got into blockchain, really. But like, it's like a Winston Churchill quote. It's like, the further you look into history, the clearer you can see the future. And it is so true. That is like the most true thing. Like, if you look at all of the charts, everything's going up. Like, everything's moving in one direction. So to think that like we're going to now stifle off, and globalization, or, because everything's getting more and more like different cultures in different areas, we're slowly getting more like that. So that's just going to carry on happening. And then you've got the backlash, like Brexit. That's another whole thing. Just a whole crazy world we're living in. I think blockchain is definitely going to be like at the hub of it, at like bringing good out of it, because it's not getting any better really, but like, it's a big topic. But I think blockchain is only going to bring good, especially if you can not have a state you're locked to, but you have to be in that currency. You have to have all these rules and regulations. If you can have like an EOS, like you said, you put it in you own EOS, and you can go wherever you want. I am my own little mini government, or whatever you want to call yourself, and then you can, if people accept EOS, it's so interesting, dude. Like, you go on for hours talking about this.
Yeah, I've got because of EOS and because of the podcast, I've got friends on every continent now besides Antarctica. But yeah, like I just kind of hoping for this day where I can, where I'll go travel and maybe visit all my EOS friends all over the world.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that, because like all of the dApps you're seeing built now are all so distributed. Even the people are distributed. Like go back 30 years. You pretty much got a job in your local city. You know, it's like you got a job in your local city. All the people with the same color skin as you, or maybe not even 30 years. I don't know how long ago that was. Maybe 50 years now. And then now is everything's just getting more, and even the companies which are being built are more distributed. Yeah. So, and then I know this is a little bit off topic, but you know, Hyperloop. You've probably heard of that project, which like Richard Branson, Elon Musk. Yeah, they're thinking about connecting. Like Sydney to Melbourne in like an hour. And also that's a long journey. Like that's like an American kind of journey. It's like they're thinking about connecting like London to like the bottom of all the way down like near Middle East in like 2 hours. You go to like Dubai in 2 hours. Like, woof. That means you could live in London and work in Dubai. Yeah. Like obviously these infrastructure projects are going to be like crazy off the loop, but literally off the loop. But dude, it's going to be so crazy to see the future of all of this. Yeah, that Hyperloop is rad. They started. They've been trying to pass it in to get it from the Silicon Valley down to Los Angeles, which is like a 6 to 8 hour drive for us. But yeah, same thing. Like turn that into an hour, and all of a sudden, big time. Yeah, it's good. And then, yeah, man, it's just really interesting. Like it's sort of off blockchain, but it kind of maybe it does link to blockchain in a way. Like you'll be able to have your EOS, you can pay for your Hyperloop service, and you can whiz down anywhere in the world and just live there for a few months. You know, all this kind of change. Here's how it connects to EOS: is once Elon Musk starts putting people on the moon and on Mars, they need some sort of digital currency to transact in. So yeah. So yeah, that'll be this is the next step, dude. Like Martians, they're gonna have like EOS, and it's gonna be like different. yeah, the Mars EOS coin. I like that. We'll have to start a Telegram chat for that one. Yeah, man. I'm literally about to. I'm editing it right now. I'm about to release a video about what Elon Musk said in his podcast, and I talk about that. I'm like, there's gonna be like different currencies. He's saying that we're moving away from paper. So I'm saying that Tesla at one point probably going to get into crypto as well. And then you'll be able to pay for your services with Tesla and your automated vehicles. It's all just kicking off, bro. Everything's kicking off. Every industry is going for it. And it's just so exciting. I think blockchain is the most exciting. That's why I'm just like completely crypto every day. Yeah. But when all these other industries catch on. Yeah. Well, and tie VR in there too. VR is right. Oh, yeah, VR as well. Crazy, crazy stuff. Yeah. The one that I like to... Yeah, go on. The one that I like to put together in my head is virtual reality, like immersive virtual reality worlds with blockchain and with non-fungible tokens. Because all of a sudden then you're living within this virtual reality world, and you could even be putting in work and then gaining like real assets. You could be like a gold miner. I mean, you could literally go go out, like mine gold, bring it back, make a pile of gold that's non-fungible tokens, and then sell it to people to build swords out of or something. You know, there's like this whole economy that pops up with NFTs in virtual worlds. That's like, oh my God, yeah. Kind of it's like the iPhone created thousands of industries for iPhone cases. It's the same thing. It's like when you build an application which has like a non-fungible token, there'll be like industries built within the industry. Yeah. And like, that's what YouTube did really. Like now we think of YouTube as this like platform where, you know, you can make money from YouTube, but that's kind of an alien concept 10 years ago. It's like, what do you mean? You make money on YouTube? Like, how do you do that? It's like, I monetize my content. What does that mean? Monetizing your content. That's a weird idea. Like YouTube, you can have your whole business on a platform. And that's what like, it's going to be like way more of YouTube, that kind of business model where you can live on that platform. Every game you can live on if you play it enough. Yeah. Like that's kind of the future, right? I don't know. That's what I'm seeing anyway. What do you think of so there's like a whole nother community of EOS in China that's like building just as fast. We don't know about a lot of their interesting dApps, a lot of their takes on the EOS ecosystem. What do you think about, or how much do you know about the Chinese EOS community and all the stuff they're building? Well, I wanted to do an interview with Dice.one, but they were like, no, we don't want to do one because we don't speak English. And I was like, well, do you have an English speaker? They're like, no, but they were typing to me, obviously like translating it. But there's a project called EOS Force, which I know are our sister chain, and they're doing loads of stuff, but they got whole different mechanisms in there. But it's like, I think it is an issue. Like Asia just are so closed off by their government. Like we were saying earlier about like all of these different, it's like almost communist. It's like communism there. So yeah, I don't know. And then they have such a big population as well. So yeah, I think I don't really know the answers to that. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I think they are probably going to build their own things, and we're not going to play those games because China's a really different culture, isn't it? Like think about America as like pretty much everyone in America came from Europe, or they came from the other side, but they all stayed over. So you're pretty much, we're all brothers. And then Asia are all brothers. And it's going to be this kind of, the next like mass kind of movement will be those two big cultures moving into like, but even the languages are so different. So we're going to have sort of technology, which is like instant translation to help as well. Cause we've got that already, but like I'm saying on a different scale. But I think
you need the neural net to connect that translator for you, so you can think it and it comes out the other way.
Because they are obviously exactly the same. Because when I talk, it's not like Chinese people are different to English people or whatever. It's just like even like countries like Japan, it's just the culture's so different. Like they have, it's not like so different, but I don't know. It's a hard question. I don't really know the answer, but I kind of think about it.
There's a book for people who want to understand like the kind of difference in cultures. It's called AI Superpowers, Silicon Valley and the New World Order or something like that. It's basically about the difference in business cultures between like the Silicon Valley or United States or kind of the Western world and China. And it's really eye-opening. It's the approach is much different, you know. Both of them hammer out technology, but they do it in very different ways. And it's not, and the two sides don't understand each other very well because there's such a communication barrier. So
yeah, exactly. Even Japan and China have the problem, don't they? And then Korea. Like I met a Korean guy in Australia. Like we hate China. Like we don't want to be friends with China. Like they don't do anything to help anybody. China's like a bit of a military state at the moment. I feel like the government's so powerful. Like the people don't really have any say. America's like, you probably complain about America just as much as I complain about the UK, but like we've got it easy.
Oh yeah,
we've got it way easy, bro.
Yeah. No, I'm grateful for, you know, where I live and what I get to do. But yeah, I definitely want to like look at the government cynically. We'll just say that. For sure.
Exactly. Yeah. Our government's a complete mess right now, bro. I literally don't even care. I don't even tune into it. I literally don't. I feel like the system is, I feel like there's just the world economy is too complex now to be running our economy, our government in like here, like smashing a thing on the thing. It's just like, it's too old, man. We need to innovate and use like technology like EOS, because EOS is like, back to EOS, of course, but it's a governance and economic machine. Like we can use a blockchain like EOS to run a whole economy. Like everybody can do referendums. Who's going to produce the blocks, or who we can choose on the amount of inflation, and then everybody can vote on where that inflation goes, like healthcare, everything like that. I'm not saying it's like the perfect idea, but it's better than what we have today, because it's all corrupt. But that's back to that again. Like that's something I like talking about, that because that's like, I think that's what affects most people in their lives, is like what government do and what central bankers do. Like that's what really affects you in your day-to-day life. Like I think that's probably the most that's what affects you the most in the West anyway.
And that's what's cool about EOS is we don't have to, and you don't hear much government talk within EOS specifically about like politics, because most people in EOS have shut that off. Like, okay, I don't care. I'm going to build this and we're going to test and try this new way of doing things. And I think I love that. I don't watch the news. I don't pay attention to politics. I just love pushing forward this possibility. Like the EOS referendum is so cool. Really cool. This idea of people getting to vote and change and have this, malleable governance structure that actually implements things. Like when we vote for the recs, or when the block producers choose to put the recs into effect, like it's going to, go, oh my gosh, recs in effect. Do you remember that old rap band? Oh, I'm making a meme.
Yeah, make a meme, bro.
Recs in effect is in effect on the record. Yeah, I'm gonna bring that old rap song. I'm bringing that old rap song back. I'm gonna get Rex in effect. But yeah, when Rex goes into effect, it's just gonna happen. People are gonna implement it. Whereas when things get voted through and then they have to, they go, that just begins some sort of long convoluted process that gets kind of perverted over time.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's just like the whole system we have is all so disjointed. It's like you have one database of a bank, you have another database of a bank, then you have the government spreadsheets of like where people are paying their tax, then you have this spreadsheet, then you have this. They're all central points of failure. If you just had one open blockchain, malleable blockchain, it doesn't have to be EOS, I'm just saying a general blockchain instead of a database, everybody can just tap into the same resource and then everybody can audit it. It's transparent. But right now it's so difficult to see what's going on in the economy, because it's like a bank can just do something and then you have to like investigate their database. Do you know what I mean? It's just so many points that you have to go and investigate. So it just creates this basically this ridiculously complex economy, which you can never really not say like have a force against, but you can't audit it. Like being transparent and saying, oh, well, why did this account send this to this account? And I'm not saying that there should be someone who's going to hit the hammer and say you can't do that. I'm just saying like if everybody could see it, it'd be so much better, everything. But I think what Dan Larimer says, I think everything which has a database will turn into a blockchain at some point, because blockchains are just better. They're more secure, they're more this, they're more that.
Yeah. And something Dan also said regarding transparency was that in his old Virginia Tech talk, that old famous one. But
yeah, I watched all of this. Yeah.
Yeah. He talks about transparency right now. Like we're transparent to like Google and to Amazon and to the government and to everyone. Like our information
is transparent. Yeah.
It's all out there and we are fully transparent, but the other side is not transparent. And exactly. So like the only real solution for this is to make both sides transparent. Like since we don't have privacy, a solution is to make both sides transparent. So it's, what the people who are watching us.
We can even be private. Be private, and because if one person out of a billion people does something wrong, it doesn't affect anybody.
Yeah.
Like we can be as private as we want. It's a decentralized system, but if they are the ones which have all of the power, then they do one thing, it can affect everyone. So yeah, I completely agree with that.
So if you make the other side transparent and then give everyone a choice over how much data they let out, then all of a sudden, that's kind of the bigger picture as far as what transparency goes. And Privios, shout out to Privios, just added that privacy layer to.
Is that PEOS as well? They've got the PEOS.
And then there's PEOS is a privacy coin. So that is to mask transactions like, kind of like Monero or Zcash. It's kind of like the Monero with the private ring signatures.
Exactly. That's awesome, man. That's a big step.
So with those two, and Privios gives you basically gives the ability to put a privacy layer so dApps can add a privacy layer into their dApps. Yeah, I mean, it's
really interesting, bro. Yeah, and I think how governments always come out with the spiel. They're like, okay, we need to regulate this because of terrorism and child pornography and all this weird shit they come out with. Like, if you think about it this way, like, the only what am I trying to say? It's such a big thing I'm trying to say. When it's just like too big to say it. Like, let me just think. Give me a second.
Take your time, man.
Governments, they use that to sort of regulate to keep us safe. But the thing is, if everybody had their own power for themselves and they could monetize their data and they had this kind of like less regulated environment, then people wouldn't go out and do bad things in the first place. Like, terrorism happens because of the system we have, because like the IRA, the Irish used to bomb London because we were forcing something upon them that they didn't want. And it's like with this is really deep, but with like 9/11 or something like that, like who really knows about that? That's a whole other story. That's a Joe Rogan chat, like about who did that. But like, it's kind of funny to think that, okay, if it was an Al Qaeda or whatever, like the only reason they did it was for a reason. Like, I'm not saying that America went out and like are trying to destroy the world, but as a cause and effect. Do you know what I mean? If the people had more power themselves in their country, and you know, saying, you know, Al Qaeda is probably not a good example because you're American, so you're probably like, what the hell? But like, do you know what I mean? Like, there's different, there's if you look at history, there's just different areas where there's a cause and effect, and the government used that to scare you to get power over you, which in the first place it wouldn't have happened if we all had our own freedom. In a way, kind of makes sense. There's a big thing I'm trying to say.
You're saying basically that like oppression kind of causes people to act out and fight against oppression, you know, or
you know, I think in general,
yeah, the feeling of being held down causes people to like fight back or strike back.
Yeah, and that's why the EOS community is so positive, because like we're all in it together. Like there's nothing like that's why we're all like giving each other like loads of support and saying, yeah, we can do this, and everyone's like bringing everybody up. It's quite like deep, but maybe there's something there. I don't know.
Yeah, well, there's not coercion going on. There's not like direct coercion going on. There's not like people forcing people to do things. The people who are within EOS right now are here pushing forward an idea because everyone wants to be here. And if anyone wanted to leave, they can just sell their EOS and be gone. And so that is, to me, that's the future, is this ability to be a part of a community until that community is not necessarily aligning with what you are. And then you can leave and be a part of it.
Exactly. And you're not tied to like a national value of a currency. It's like sovereign money, isn't it? It's like you can create it, but if you don't like it, you don't have to.
Yeah.
You don't have to care. Like, I completely agree with that, man, 100%. Because at the moment we're all tied to this like horrible system. Like we're forced into our currency in the first place. It's so deep, man. But yeah, go EOS. That's all.
Yeah, the ability to leave.
We've been going for ages. Yeah, this is good chat, man.
Yeah. Well, so as we start to wind down here, we'll have a nice hour and a half show. I've done hour and a half shows. I've actually hit a 2-hour show before. So we've had a nice, interesting conversation here. This is rad, and we'll have you on again as things develop a little bit.
Maybe we'll try and structure it more, because I think like there's so much shit going on, bro. Like.
Well, Since you're MaxDapp from the CryptoCast, let's end on a maybe your favorite DApp right now for people that people can earn EOS, because a lot of people are like want to hop in and earn some EOS. Like maybe what the best DApp to do that is, and kind of your process as far as how to find places to earn EOS with DApps.
Yeah, so there's two, but one's not active yet. Okay. So. Probably like, let me have a look at like, because I've got my list here, which I've got all of my things. Most of my investments, like are pretty much in a few like gambling dApps. So I've got a few of them. I wouldn't recommend this to anyone. This is the ones I'm making money in, basically. So Fast Win, I had some really good dividends from, and they're trying to do like the World of Warcraft on the blockchain kind of thing. They're trying to build like a kind of gambling, but not. But I'm just trying to think of the best one I've got. Like the gambling whole scene's sort of in a bear market at the moment, so there's less people making dividends. But on my channel, like, I talk about loads of different dApps. So I don't really want to do one specifically, just because there's so many and it changes so much. But have a look at Fastwin, have a look at BetDice if you haven't already done that. But the one which I'm most excited about is Genereos, which you might have heard of.
The block producer?
No, not Genereos. I mean GeneOS. Sorry.
GeneOS.
Yeah, GeneOS, and that's going to be coming to the EOS blockchain really, really soon. And I highly recommend everybody check this out, because it's going to be a way that you can sequence your genodes for $100. You can do it for $100, and then that information is going to be locked onto the EOS blockchain, and then you can monetize it to pharmaceutical companies. So, and I think, like Ancestry.com and 24andMe or something. Yeah. It's like $200, and you get like a sort of an idea of where you're from. And then the thing is with that, the company who you did that test with own that DNA. They own your DNA, and they can sell it for tens of thousands of dollars, like tens of thousands of dollars. And I found this out, and I was like, dude, this is just never do those things. but GNOS, they're going to be doing it so you can do a full sequence, not just like a little bit, but you do full sequence genodes, all that really, really valuable data, and you can lock it on the blockchain and you can monetize it, and you'll probably make 10 grand a year just from that, just through that. And that's coming soon. That's coming really, really soon. Also, there's so many of them. Check out Loom EOS as well. I think a few of you guys probably know that, and that they're going to be bringing out a way to get all of your Facebook, Instagram data and lock it on the blockchain. So they're going to be releasing that probably in a year or so, but look out for them because you'll be able to monetize your data on that one. But most of the EOS dApps I'm invested in are gambling dApps. I don't really want to, like, it's hard to talk about gambling dApps because, like, I don't want to like tell anyone to invest in a gambling website, really.
Yeah. Well,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's risky for sure. And we're not financial advisors, and we do hold.
We are not financial advisors, bro.
And we hold these coins. Yeah, we're just guys on the internet trying to make a quick buck off gambling dApps. So don't listen. What do you say about? You said that the gambling dApps are kind of in a bear market, and it's almost like it's like a microcosm of the ICO thing, where it's like everyone was making these huge dividends on gambling dApps, and now it's kind of the rush is there, right? It's not.
I think it's because like the reason people were gambling on the gambling dApps was to get the native token. So like it was like bet one EOS and you get one, for instance, say like King Coin, which is like the EOS poker dividend token. So everybody was gambling loads to get these tokens, and obviously the dividends are high because like more people are gambling. But I think like if you want to get like really steady dividends, I think there's a one called Poker King, and it's like just a poker website. And the thing about that is people don't play to get the native token; they play because they love poker. Yeah. So like that's a sustainable business. Like a lot of the other ones are just like you just play to get the token, or like a dice game. Yeah. So I think to get all of these casino dApps out of the bear market, they need to bring in players who care about the games more than the token, and then that's because that's the winning thing. And obviously the token is great because you can accumulate and then you can get profit back. So it's like they'll completely wipe out everything else, like Casino 888 or whatever. They just take your money, but with us, we'll give you back a percentage. So it's going to happen 100%. I'm just saying, like right now, it's just going to take a bit of like time for this to get a bit more mainstream, and then more people to actually be able to get an account and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. But it's very, very, very promising future. I wouldn't say don't look at gambling dApps because there's going to be a shitload of money to be made in this. If you can choose one which gets 100,000 users, you're gonna be living, bro. If you can choose one which gets 1 million users, I've got like one of my casino dApps, I've got like 0.5% of the supply. I literally just got like so many tokens, and I get like 10 EOS a day from that. Imagine if they get like actually users, like there's definitely money to be made. So I wouldn't recommend not looking at it. I'm just saying like it's a bit of a shit time to talk about it. It's just a bit like
well, and it's like it's kind of like people are going to have to do their own research and take their own risks and be smart about it. But like gambling dApps, there's so many of them coming out too. It's like more coming out, and they're all competing. And the idea of you possibly guessing like the right one out of possibly 1,000 gambling dApps that are going to come out, it's a really a long shot. So like,
that's what I'm trying to do with my channel in a way. I'm trying to like help people with that. But it's hard at the moment. It's like,
sure. Well, that's rad. That's a good shout out to your channel and why people should pay attention. If you're interested in the niche of dApps coming out and kind of what's going on, then
that's what I'm just building my channel around. It's like a lot of the time it's about EOS as well, but I'm trying to branch out to like EOS dApp, well, obviously EOS dApps, but branch out to Tron dApps as well, because Tron's going to have loads of dApps as well. Even though their blockchain is not as advanced, they're still going to be massive. It's going to be like Microsoft and Apple kind of thing. Yeah. And then, I talk about dApps and I get people on the show, and dividends. I talk about dividends a lot. So I like dividends. Dividends is my favorite word.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I should probably watch some of the shows on other blockchains and stuff, because I spend so much time in EOS and I'm really open to all blockchains. I think that like there's plenty of room for all these blockchains to grow and compete. I think Bitcoin, ETH, Tron, EOS, Ripple. I think, these all have places in this big global community we're building. There's just not enough time to research them all. I believe in them all. I like EOS.
It's like, I'm the same as you. The only ones I really care about is Bitcoin and EOS, because Bitcoin and EOS are completely different. Yeah. Like EOS isn't going to compete with Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's not going to compete with EOS. They're going to complement each other. Yeah. Because Bitcoin's going to go crazy, dude. I think like all these institutions which are licking their lips, like they're not going to buy ETH first. They're not going to buy EOS first. They're going to buy Bitcoin. And I think it's slightly misconstrued. Like people think that people aren't going to buy Bitcoin because it's slow and has transaction fees. It's like, nah, when people buy gold in like the investment world, they buy it to lock in a blimmin' safe in Fort Knox with armed guards. And the only way they're going to be able to transport it is in a lorry. Like, do you know what I mean? Like people are going to buy gold for a hedge and it's going to be a long-term investment. So, you know, man, I think Bitcoin, just to wrap it up with you, like, I think Bitcoin's going to be massive. Like, I think it's going to, you know how Bitcoin went first and then all the altcoins? Yeah. I think the same thing's going to happen with institutions. Bitcoin's going to go first and the altcoins will follow. But EOS kind of changes my idea a little bit because I think that EOS can actually bring out really good products quick. Yeah. And I don't think anyone else can do that.
The possibility with EOS is that some sort of mass adoption apps or multiple apps that have users start pouring in, and EOS can possibly untie itself from Bitcoin, which
and get on Coinbase and stuff like that.
Yeah, which I don't see other coins having the possibility of untying themselves from Bitcoin.
Yeah, sure. EOS has already done it as well. You look at history, so Bitcoin went to 20K, EOS followed it $19. But then EOS went to $22 before it launched. So it has done it before. So there's no reason it can't do it again. So I actually did a video just today on that. So I'll release that in a second.
Nice. Cool. This has been really fun, man. And we'll have to have you on again. And so on my end, this is the EOS Podcast, my EOS Podcast friends. It's also a podcast, not just a YouTube show. So listen to the podcast because then you can do it on your way to work, or you can do it before you go to sleep, or you can do it while you're making breakfast, or when you're actually supposed to be working, you can be learning about EOS. That's the point of podcasts. You can put your Bluetooth earbud in and no one knows that you're learning about EOS. And so this is coming up on the 70th show. So this is, we're 60 something. I forget. This is maybe 65, but you know, we're going for 100 shows this year easily. And we're going hard. So,
sweet, man.
I have a proxy. It's called Mr. Happy Money Proxy. I have interviewed so many block producers. I know I have personal opinions on who the best are, and I vote for the very best block producers that are building the community, that are transparent, that are empowering the ecosystem. So if you don't know who to vote for, put your faith in the Mr. Happy Money Proxy and we'll make it happen for you. EOS San Francisco block producer, that is my block producer, and we're all about building community. And we're building a big community in the Silicon Valley and in San Francisco. So check that out too. So those are my little shout outs. MaxDapp with the CryptoCast. Where can people find you online, Max?
Yeah, so the most obvious place is YouTube. Just type in MaxDapp into YouTube and I'll just be like everything on the list because no one's got that name. Yeah, you can find me on Twitter. So it's just @MaxDapp. You can do the same with Telegram @MaxDapp as well. But that's pretty much like what I used to. Most people just get me on Telegram, bro. That's where I'm chilling. Telegram. And I do. What else do I do? Nah, I'm boring. That's all I do.
You got a wonderful niche though. The DApp thing is that the DApp thing's a great niche. I mean, that's big. People need information on how to. A lot of people just like are looking at like, how do I make money on EOS, or how do I play on EOS, and that's MaxDapp will show you how to do that. So
I'll show you.
Cool, man. Well, that's the end of the show. Until next time, my EOS friends, my EOS podcast friends. Cheers.
See you later, guys.
The money is not the prime asset in life. Time is, and your time is.